All right, what is happening, everyone? How is everyone doing? Welcome to another episode of Sneaks, Rhymes, and Life. I am your host, Lionel McDonald. So, once again, we've been on the topic of sneakers and hip hop back and forth. We recently kind of talked about Kendrick Lamar's pop out concert with the Black Hippies, and geez, who else was there? We know that YG was there, and Rick Ross was there, and LeBron was there, and Russell Westbrook and DeMar DeRozan. We're going to flip the script. We're going to go back to the roots of this podcast. We got to talk about some history, some hip hop history. We're going to sum it up, giving a big shout out to one of the most popular podcast hosts, and it's just amazing. Just going to give him some flowers while he's here, and just some of the amazing things he's done with his podcast, but also with his hip hop career, and that is N.O.R.E. But before we go down that road, let's just catch up a little bit. So, hey, I was away at the cottage most recently this weekend. Got into a riveting game of hip hop trivia. And those that know me, I am a person that loves random hip hop facts. I can read a facts book and about hip hop cover to cover, backwards, forward, sideways. It's one of my passions, and one of the reasons that this podcast kind of came to life. So I definitely learned a few things. Definitely was able to share. The game is called Questions of Hip Hop Trivia. Sean uh, Kantarowicz is the author of the game. You can get it on Amazon. A ton of fun. Myself and my brother-in-law Chris Kasha, who does the theme of this podcast and the intro. We had a great time just chopping up and playing this hip hop trivia game. So highly recommended if you're looking for a party mixer, or just a way to entertain your friends on a long weekend in July. Definitely a thing to go. But this got me thinking. So just thinking about albums, and it just magically the stars aligned, and this is why we're doing the podcast today on July 2nd. So it's amazing to see how many albums kind of came out at this time over history to really kind of kick off the summer. So go back to 91, Leaders in the New School, Future Without a Past, their debut album. That got Sob Story, Case of the PTA, Zone Coasters. Those are some of the tracks that were on it. Kendrick Lamar, he's been in the news on this podcast. Beef with Drake, Pop Out Show. We know he's been all over. His debut album, Section 80, was also released on this day. Slick Rick, I believe this is the album that he actually recorded while he was in jail, or this is the first album that he recorded right after he got it. I think this is the one in jail. It's Slick Ruler's Back was the name of the album. Not nearly as successful as The Great Adventures of Slick Rick, but we'll take it. In and around on the same day, my favorite De La Soul album released, Stakes is High. It has The Business, the title track, Stakes is High. It's So Easy, my favorite De La record by far. Nas's It Was Written, arguably Nas's best album. Me personally, I still, I'm ride or die. Illmatic, but some people think It Was Written. It was more creative, better songs. It's got its biggest hit with Lauryn Hill, If I Ruled the World. That also released on the second. On the first, we had Ghetto Boys. Back in 91, We Can't Be Stopped. That's the song. That's the third album they came out with My Mind Is Playing Tricks on Me. So there's amazing music that came out. We recently, in and around this time, we also had Public Enemy, Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. We had The Message by Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5 that was, debuted in 82. Back on July 1st, we had Long Live the Kane by Big Daddy Kane, his debut album. Last week, we had Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt. We had Missy's Birthday. We had Pete Rock and CL Smooth's debut EP, also on the 25th of June. all sold out, that had the original version of the Creator, which is better than the album version. So a lot has happened with hip hop and this particular day. It's really always been treated as like a kickoff into the summer. Um, but let's talk about our main topic, and kind of also ties into this topic here, and that is Victor James Santiago Jr., otherwise known as Noriega or N.O.R.E, out of Queensbridge, New York. Noriega is half of the prominent rap group Capone and Noriega, which was formed in 1995. Him and his teammate Capone, they actually met when they were both incarcerated. They made 5 studio albums. They originally signed, or Noriega originally signed with Capone on Penalty Records back in '96, and was able to create the masterpiece called The War Report. That is the reason why it kind of got me on this whole nostalgia thing. So The War Report is one of the most amazing albums that ever came out in the '90s. We'll call it the mid '90s. We have A Legal Life. We have Tony, or Tony. We have Stick You. The track list goes on and on. Like, if you look at this album, this is one of the great '90s hip hop albums that we've heard. Again, it was helped also put out by Tommy Boy and Warner Brothers, but we had the who's who of at that time, Queensbridge hip hop. And I don't want to knock anyone that is also from Queens, whether we're talking about LL, we're talking about um, um, Tribe Called Quest, or even Pharaoh Monch, but specifically Queensbridge hip hop. And we had 4 singles from this album. We had LA, which was the first one. This was in response to the beef that they were having with essentially Death Row, but particularly the Dog Pound. That was in response to that song that they had them and Snoop going through New York, breaking buildings. So they had to come out with their own version with Mobb Deep included. Then there was A Legal Life, then Tony, Top of New York, and then Closer. But there's so many other songs that are on this album that makes it literally call it a hood classic if you don't want to call it a classic. From Blood Money to Driver's Seat to Parole Violators, even songs like Thug Paradise and Capone Bone, which was produced by another Queens legend, Marley Marl. But my song is Halfway Thugs, and probably A Legal Life is a very close second. And then around the top 3, we're probably talking about Stick You. Again, Tragedy Gaddafi was a producer, along with Buckwild, along with Lord Finesse, along with DJ Clark Kent. So they got an all-star team to help produce this album. But where did this take Noriega? This is kind of the early beginnings of his career. This album, it peaked on number 21 on Billboard 200. They all charted singles, but then we moved that. Unfortunately, Capone was jailed again, which left N.O.R.E to kind of debate and come up with the idea to have his own solo project. So he decided to release N.O.R.E. And when I think of this album, 2 amazing tracks stand out. Super Thugs, that was produced by the defunct Neptunes now, because we know Chad and Pharrell are beefing right now over Neptune's rights, so they're not really together. But there's that album, and then there was Banned from TV, which was an incredible song. We had Nature, we had Nature, we had Nas, we had we had Big Pun, and then we also had we had Cameron. all, kind of those that took part in the album overall. So it was an amazing. It was I wouldn't say an amazing project, but definitely showed that Noriega was able to do things on his own. Now, again, the song "Banned from TV" is the song that probably sticks out the most. This one was produced by Swiss Beats. It had Nature, Cameron, Jadakiss, and Styles P going back to back, almost EPMD style, and then we had Pun. I think Nature had the best verse on it. Some people like Cameron, some people like Pun's, but again, it was an album that I don't know if anyone really thought that Noriega could do it on his own, but found a way. Cool track with called Fiesta we did with Kid Capri. The Change is definitely a great beat that I love as well. And then yeah, he got many other people, including Busta Rhymes. Body in the Trunk is another classic, hood classic, we'll call it. So it had a variety of different sounds, and definitely really showed that Noriega was able to do an album on his own. He definitely then came out with his second album, Melvin Flynn, the Hustler. Medium success, did reach top 10. Didn't have the track that like Super Thug that really captured people's attention. Definitely then had another album when they kind of came together again, being Capone and Noriega. That was the reunion. I think that was like in like 2000. Again, that one didn't hit like the War Report. The rumor is that they may work on another version of the War Report. And then officially, Noriega decided in the early 2000s to change his name to N.O.R.E or N.O.R.E. That's what he decides to go by. God's Favorite Son was the next album that he released in 2002. Nothing was the track that caught a lot of people's attention. But then, you know what? He kind of shifted his focus. He started to just incorporate more Spanish than ever into some of his tracks, and definitely it resonated. He's half Hispanic and obviously half black. He decided to release two more albums, with his fifth album being Notoriety. Again, had some compliments. It's one of the last verses we ever got from Prodigy. Bun B, 3 6 Mafia, Kanye, David Banner, Corrupt. These are all guys that made a debut with Noriega. Again, ultimately, he collaborated again. Channel 10 was the third album he came out with Capone. These are, sorry, the third album was Channel 10, and then the fourth one, I believe will be the final one, was the War Report 2. But what ended up happening over time, he started to really diversify, and I think it's one of these amazing things. This is like LL, this is like Common, this is like Ice Cube, guys that are able to reinvent themselves and do something else outside music. So in the late 2000s, early 2010s, he teamed up with DJ FNN, and they had a show called what was it called? Uh, the Militant Men, or